Hi, my name is Bethany, and this is the Capital K Knitting Podcast. I'm coming to you from Indiana, where I live with my husband and my 4 kids and our puppy Ranger. And yeah, this is the podcast that we will review everything that I knit in March. It is April 3rd, 2023. Thank you so much for joining me today. I watch knitting podcasts when I have my very limited alone time. And so if you're choosing to spend time watching this video and spending time with me, that I know is a precious decision, and I appreciate that a lot. So if you are new here, everything that you might have a question about will be in the description box below. Yarn, makers, project pages, all of that. I do go into a lot of detail here on the podcast. First of all, because if I'm watching a podcast, I don't want to be going in and out of the podcast to look at Ravelry pages all the time. If you're showing me a project, I figure you'll tell me about the project. And if I get anything wrong, I will put it on the screen so you can trust that. And Editing Bethany knows way more and checks way more sources than, shall we say, Recording Bethany does. And then also, probably the only other thing you need to know is that if I talk too fast or too slow for you, what you can do is go up to the settings on your YouTube app. Just there in this video should be a little cog, and you can press that, and there's an option for adjusting your video speeds. You can slow me down or speed me up, however you want to do that. There will also be chapters in the description box below, so it'll have the segments of how I set up the video, so that if you want to stop and come back, you can do that and know where you were. Or if you're really not interested in acquisitions or this intro part, then you can skip ahead to do other stuff. But what we're going to do is start off with some finished objects, then we're going to go into works in progress, and then we're going to do some acquisitions. I have some beautiful things that I have now. Oh, some of them were gifted to me, some of them I purchased, even though we're doing a low buy year, guys. We're doing a low buy year, and I will say that has been pretty successful. Not a zero buy year. We haven't done that, but it's definitely been less than last year. And the purchases have been much more mindful as well. Things not just, oh, I like that yarn, I'm gonna get a skein of this sock yarn because it's really pretty, but thinking through what I have on hand and what I would like to invest in the future. And I wanted to let you know I'm going to be hosting a knit along for the rest of the year that's going to be called Steek Your Heart Out. So you can take any FO, you can take any whip, anything can be in this knit along as long as it's something that gets steeked. So that means you are taking scissors to your knitting. Be brave, you can do this, and the hashtag is going to be hashtag Steek Your Heart Out 2023. I'm going to be pulling for prizes from that hashtag. If you are on Instagram and you use that and you don't have a public account, I won't see it. So maybe send me a message or let me follow you on Instagram, and then I will be able to see that. Again, that's going to be hashtag Steek Your Heart Out 2023. You don't have to finish anything. You just have to have a steeked project, and it's going to be going until the end of the year, because I'm going to be doing things like that until the end of the year. I have prizes already for the winner, I guess, the drawing winner for it, and it's going to be really fun. So please join me as we steek everything ever. Oh, well, this is here. I'll start with this. This was a finished object last year, actually, and I modified it again. I just keep modifying my finished objects until I'm very satisfied with them. So this was the pocket sweater by Minimi Designs, and I test knit this for her. Sorry, I've been wearing it, so my hair is all over it. But I realized that I utilize cardigans much more than I utilize jumpers or sweaters or whatever you call a pullover sweater, right? So what I did, and I'm going to have a video about this as well in case you want to be brave enough to steek your own jumpers. What I did is I took the collar off, and then I took the pocket off of the front, because I never used that pocket. And unlike a pocket that, I think my socks just fell down. Unlike a pocket that would be like down here where you would put your hands in it, this one, when I took the pocket off, it had like crumbs in it, even though I've blocked it a couple of times, because I never put my hand in there. Like I never, so that grossed me out. And so I didn't put a pocket back on there, even if it like looked cute, because that's gross. And I think I would have noticed that had it been a pocket that I kept my hands in, of course, to keep them warm. So what I did is I did a crochet reinforcement here, and it's the same color yarn as this is. This is shepherd's wool in the colorway berries. And I had a whole 100 grams skein left after I finished this sweater. So what I did was, with the yarn that I got from the collar and the pocket and the 100 gram hank that I had left over, I just did the crochet reinforcement on the parts that weren't secure, right? So it was a crew neck. So I did a crochet reinforcement like that, and then did like a V-neck crochet until I got to the neckline and cut that off. So there were these little pieces of fabric. I might still have them. Yeah, so these little pieces of fabric used to be like right here, right? And then I cut it and picked up stitches all along. Well, I actually picked up stitches before I cut it, but I picked up stitches all along there. I didn't pick up every stitch, and I didn't really, I would say I probably picked up every 3 out of 4 stitches, and then just knit this huge shawl collar. This is over 100 grams, this shawl collar, and it is lovely. I love when a cardigan comes up on my neck. I love that a lot. I just don't like my neck or my back to be cold. It's my least favorite thing. So I've been wearing this a lot. I even wore it this morning to take my son to the ophthalmologist, and I modified it even when I was testing it. I asked her if I could do this, and she said yes. And I put the Birds of Prey stitch pattern from Maradiddle Makes Birds of Prey socks. I was test knitting those socks at the time for her as well, and I was just obsessed with that stitch pattern, and I regret nothing. I think it was a great decision. I put it on the sleeves, and I put it down the side of the body as well, and I really like this sweater. I like it way more now as a cardigan, and I'm contemplating doing this same thing, maybe not with a shawl collar, but just with a regular front button band to my dad's sweater that I knit from Emily Curtis's designs. So there's that. The next thing that I finished is my ranunculus sweater. It's very nice. This is knit out of
Oh, I think I have a ball band here.
Juniper Moon Farm Cumulus Israeli Mako cotton, 94% cotton and 6% nylon. And it's a worsted weight cotton yarn. And I really like it. It's in the colorway Stone. So it looks blue in some lights and it looks gray in others. I really like this sweater. I'm thinking of making another one. Amber of the Lovely Yarn podcast gave me kind of the gumption to get on the ranunculus bandwagon, even though I'm kind of late to it. I put a tag in there so that I could see the back better because there are short rows in the front and in the back. And I was really, as I was knitting it, I was having trouble knowing, you know, where I was sometimes. So I put a stitch marker on the front as I was knitting it. But then after I was done, I thought I probably won't have an easier time after it's done. But I think after knitting it, I came to some realizations. Number one, because so many people have knit this pattern, I knew what to expect. The pattern as written is not something that I would choose for myself. The very oversized, sheer, you know, like you can see through the gauge. It's not a dense gauge at all. I changed the gauge for this significantly, and then I even took out some positive E's on top of that because of the amount of yarn I had, and also because I knew that I was using a much thicker yarn than pattern suggested. But because of how many people have knit this pattern and how many people have modified this pattern, it's just kind of a choose your own adventure thing for a lot of people. And I think there's a lot of grace given to that, right? Where we say like, oh yeah, you just, if you want to modify it, you just do it this way. You just do it this way. And if it were any other pattern, you would say, oh, I'm not going to do that because that's not my style. That's not, or the designer didn't factor in this, that like, I think there's so much grace given to these really popular patterns because the more experienced you are, and other people's experience helps with that, right? The more project pages you've read, the more podcasts you've watched of people who have made it, the more you know about what you would like and how to make it. So I just had to reflect, like, have I been more judgmental of other people's patterns just because I haven't watched other people make them as often, or I haven't read as much about it, or I didn't read all the way through the pattern, so I didn't know I would want to modify this part until I was past the point of being able to do that. And it has, yeah, it's really made me review how much grace I give to some patterns and how much I don't to other patterns, which has been really helpful, a good area of introspection. Also, I think it's really funny. I thought I made a mistake here, but I didn't. It's just the beginning of the round, so it jumps a little. But it's beautiful. This is the modification that I made other than the gauge, is I did the textured stitches on the sleeves as well. I think if I were to do it again, which I might do it again, I would bring it in even more. I would have even less stitches on the body and especially the sleeves. And I would figure out how to do these stitches because some of these, let's see here. These here are all increases. So to do them on your sleeve, you would have to factor in decreases as well if you wanted to do that. I didn't have the bandwidth to do that, so I just did the corrugated rib and the little flower yarn overs here and the twisted rib. It's supposed to be an I-cord bind off on the sleeves, But I just like my ribs to match, and so that's what I did with that. I think because this is made of cotton, I'm going to give it to my sister Sarah for her birthday. Her birthday is in August, and she's just such a knitworthy person. And she and I are similar sizes, but she's a little bit shorter than me. So I think that this would fit really well on her. The length of this sweater is just a bit short, and I was dedicated to not buying any more yarn for this sweater. So it comes to like my button band here, which it would, of course, since she's a little shorter than I am, come down a little farther on her, and so I think that'll be perfect for her. And also, since it's made of cotton, she can wash it, she can even dry it, she can and it's very soft, and I think it'll be a really good transition piece. It won't be super warm or anything like that, but giving it to her in August means that in the fall, especially since it's got kind of, I wouldn't say 3/4, it's just over the elbow on my arm, she can wear it with a few different things. Another thing that I think I would adjust for it for myself next time is also the yoke depth, because when I wore it in my coat, of course, if it's down here, it gets shoved up here by your coat. And so it was like the bottom of it came up significantly when I had my coat on, which felt weird and also didn't keep me very warm. So yeah, I think this will be a good transitional piece for her, and it's a good first try for me where I can make some more adjustments next time as well. So I knit my ranunculus on a 5.5 millimeter. I believe the suggested needle size is a US 10, which is a 6 millimeter. I was doing something else with my 10s at that point, so I just sized down. I also did some additional raglan increases because I had a smaller gauge, but I think those weren't necessary, and so I don't think I'll do that next time. And I have a 40-inch bust, and so I was knitting the size that would be suggested for that. I did not write down which size I knit though. I'm sorry. The next thing that I finished was my Musselburgh. This is my first fingering weight Musselburgh hat. If you're unfamiliar with it, it's by Isolde Teague, and it's this pattern that's fashioned after, something like that. A fatigue cap for one of the world wars. So basically what you would do is, if you already had your hat, right, you could use it as a scarf and put it in your, because of course your uniform would come up like here. You could keep your neck all warm, or of course you can put it in on itself and have at least a double layered hat. So I like wearing it all slouchy. That's my favorite way to do it, because I'm of the generation that I'm of. I like it to be kind of slouchy, but I can also fold it and wear it like, just standard beanie, which is nice. And I didn't have as much yarn as I thought I was going to have. This is a full skein of Annie Perrin's Surface Pressure. It was from, no, that's not it. Come on. It was from her Encanto inspired collection, and I love that. It's a merino cashmere nylon blend, 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon, and the colorway is Surface Pressure. It's 420 yards per 115 grams. Now, what I've heard several people say is that they do their increases, they go 19 inches from the increase, and then they do their decreases, and that it takes about 10 grams to do the decreases. Now, the 10 gram thing was entirely accurate. I have this much left of this yarn. It's so little. I'll probably chop it up for the bird nests. It's so little. So the 10 gram decrease was accurate for me, but I only got to 18 inches before I had 10 grams left. So that means that I can still, it still works. It's still a good hat. It still works quite well, actually. And I like the feel. It's very soft. It's very nice. But number one, I think the next one I make, I won't, if I'm using superwash yarn like this is, I won't actually adjust for a smaller gauge. The smallest gauge in the pattern was 1 stitch more an inch than what I was getting. Or sorry, my gauge was 1 stitch more an inch than what the pattern has. So I added some more stitches. And I think in the future I won't do that because it's not quite as snug on my head as I would like. And my fear of things being too small is what factored into that. I think probably every muscle burra I've made for myself has turned out a little bit bigger than I wanted it to. So I like this hat. I think the yarn is beautiful. I love these rusty bits in it. Oh, it's so nice. And I might give it away. I'm not sure because it doesn't fit me quite how I wanted it to. And I thought it would feel more special than it does. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why it doesn't. I really identify with Louisa's struggle of being strong enough for her family, and that if she messes up, everything's gonna come crumbling down and all of that. I cry every time I watch Encanto, and that's why I bought this. I thought it would be meaningful to me to have this on my head, but it's just not as special as I thought it was going to be, which is okay because I can give it to someone who will really like it. And I think that's something that I've determined for this year. I was really wanting to do less gift knitting this year and make some more things for myself, which has been my intention as I've cast things on. But it's okay if something doesn't work out for me and I decide to give it to someone else. That's all right. And so I'm gonna have a think about that because I've worn this a few times, and yeah, I'm just gonna have to think about who this would go to. I have several sisters, and one of them, they're just all very positive about the whole knitting thing. They're just fantastic. They all are crafty people as well. They crochet, they embroider, one of them's a spinner. Like, they're all great. So they really appreciate handmade gifts a lot. So I think I might set this one out to see who I should give this to. My green one I actually gifted to my son, the one that I wore all last year. So I have some time to make another one for myself before it gets really cold again. Here in Indiana, it's just starting to warm up, and that's been really nice because I've been wearing my sweaters still in the mornings and in the evenings, but in the afternoon it gets pretty hot, especially on this front porch here, which is why I often am not wearing a lot of knitwear at this point in the year during the afternoons. I do want to make some tanks for myself this year, some spring wear, shall we say, and we'll see how that pans out because sometimes I get the sweater bug and those just take a while, and I planned on doing that last year as well, and I never got around to it. These are some mitts I made for myself. I really like them. I just needed a really quick knit for my hands, my hands have been freezing for months, and I just kept thinking, I need to cast on some mitts for myself. I need to cast on some mitts for myself. And I just kept not doing it. It was silly. So you can tell the thumbs are not the same length. I got a little carried away with this one. And I really like a long mitt. My pinkies are barely out of here. That's hilarious. I think I might have them on the wrong hands. Mitts are funny because it doesn't actually matter. Like you can switch them around and it won't matter. No? I don't know what I did. My beginning of round is in a weird place on my hand. Maybe I did put it in here. Anyway, yeah. This beginning of round is on the edge of my hand here, but this one is straight in the middle of my hand. That's funny. But it doesn't really matter. You can put your thumbs wherever you want on mitts and it doesn't hurt anything. They're just circles and it's fine. But I used every bit of this green yarn that I had. I love the tones in this. It's so beautiful. Look at this. I think it's just coming up all flat for you, but here it's like there are these yellowy bits, and I just really, really liked this green. It's beautiful to me, and it's an Aran weight yarn. I knit a really long, I used all of the green yarn, friends, like all of it. And at first I was using the numbers from the Tilda mittens, and I even started the cabling on them and everything. But stripes with, I knew I wasn't going to be able to finish them with the green yarn. And stripes with cables just look kind of funny to me. So I ripped it back and just did the stripes with a little slip stitch patterning there. You can see it's just every other stitch. When I would change my color, I just slipped that old color every other stitch. And this is Luxury Fiber Spates Tarma Aran Weight Hand-Dyed Peruvian Highland Wool and Alpaca. It is 60% Peruvian Highland Wool, 40% Superfine Alpaca, and they come in 50 gram skeins. This one, sorry, I'm trying to make sure I get the number or the colors right. So this one is Everglade. This one is teal. This one is velvet. And this one is silver. Now I have more of these left over. Not of the green, but of the others, of course. Because I used up all the green. I really liked it. And these are what I have left of these colors. I bought these because I had intentions of making a cowl with them, but I never got the pattern for the cowl. When I bought it, I don't know. I think I just figured I would be going back to my yarn store when I got these and didn't bother to say like, hey, I didn't get the cowl pattern for it. Which is fine. I obviously didn't end up making the cowl. And these are what I needed. I needed a quick knit to keep my hands warm. Probably the day after I finished them, I went out to the car and it was freezing, and I was so glad I had them in my bag. I might make another pair with these, with the gray being the main and these just being the stripes for it, because I have enough to do that, and that would be fine for me to make that. I'm wondering if I should make mittens instead of mitts with that and just not do the cuff as long. We shall see. I had 2 skeins of this, but I used most of one of them for mittens for my son when I did the orange and blue striped ones for Christmas for him. Okay, and the last FO is this pair of socks. I knit my socks on 2.25 millimeter needles. What is going on? There's this hair that's caught in here that I cannot, it must be knit in. There we go. I knit my socks on US 1s, which is a 2.25 millimeter needle. This main color is Sidewalk Chalk Stripes by Patton's Croy. I really like using Patton Croy yarn. It's just very affordable for me. This one was $7.99. I don't remember how much the other yarns were. I'm trying to be more mindful about writing those down so that I can give you more information about that. This is the Patton's Croy is a 75% wool, 25% nylon base. Now, most of the time, if it just says wool, it's not superwash wool. And if it says superwash wool, then you know it is. But if it doesn't say it, if it just says wool, then usually it's not superwash wool. But with Patton's Croy, I've washed these socks. They've accidentally gone in the dryer before. Not these specifically, but other socks, and they are fine. They're just fine. So I'm positive that it's superwash wool. This, I wear a size 7.5 shoe, and this is a 64 stitch circumference. This, I normally do a cable cast on for just about everything because it's the one that I'm most comfortable with. However, this was the last pair of socks that I've done that with because they are not very stretchy at all. That's kind of the thing about cable cast-ons, is that they're very secure. And I like it a lot. I just like the rhythm of a cable cast on. But I've decided that that's silly, that if I want something to be stretchier, then I need to be able to do the technique that I want for that. I've done the slip stitch heel in the colorway Flax, which is also Patton's Croy, and the toe as well. And I did my slip stitches through the heel turn and through here, and then did that on the ball of the foot as well. I'm going to be doing a video tutorial series on how to do that. I know a lot of people really like to use non-superwash wools for their socks and no nylon wools for their socks, and I think that this type of reinforcement would be really helpful, because I find it really helpful even though I knit with superwash and nylon all the time. So even though I only do a podcast once a month, I'm usually uploading some type of knitting video once a week, and I'm going to be working on just going through an entire sock together so that we can get into it. For instance, speaking of this one, we're going into half objects now, just so you're keeping track. This one is my stretchy cast on. This is not a cable cast on, and I'm very excited about it. This yarn is Nomadic Yarns in the colorway Skinny Love in the Tweedy sock base, which is 85% superwash Blueface Leicester, and 15% Donegal Nep. There is no nylon in here, which honestly I didn't know when I cast it on, but that's okay. I love experimenting with different yarns and seeing how they hold up. So we cast on with our very nice cast on here, and I did I think 18 rows, because that's when the stripe changed. I usually do about 20 rows of ribbing there. And then did my long leg, because you guys know I love a long leg sock. And I did my same slip stitch, come around here, did that. And I finished it off in the stripe because I was pretty sure I would end with this creamy yellow color. And after the creamy yellow color is this bronze, and the bronze is what I started with up here. So it'll make the next sock really easy to kind of match up. I think this is only like half a stripe on the top, so maybe I'll try to go halfway with my cast on there. But I love the tweedy bits all through it. You can see that some of them are lighter, and the light ones are on the dark colors and the dark ones are on the light colors, so they show up really well. And I love it. I think it's a very cute tweedy sock. I'll probably be knitting the other one for the tutorial series, so that'll be fun. I'll have a few socks on the needles to show differences of a vanilla sock versus a sock with a pattern on it, and then you can see that this will still work with a sock with a pattern on it. I have one more half object. I normally knit my socks 2 at a time on 2 9-inch circular needles, but when it's striped in a pattern like this, I do like to see if it will end where the next one like would start, so that I don't have to wind them up into 2 balls. I really like doing that. So this is my other half finished object. This is for my niece. She's this is a little sock for her. And I cast on 64 stitches because she says she likes a long leg. So I did that with my stretchy cast on here. And then I added a stitch to make it 65 stitches. Yeah, you can see it on that side. And then I did a 4x1 rib, which of course is a 5-stitch repeat. And every 10 rows, I decreased that ribbed section, so that by the time we got down to the bottom, we were down to 60 stitches. So then we've got our same tread heavy heel going on here. I did not do the ball of the foot because I forgot. I just got in the zone, and by the time I looked up, it was time to do the toe. In fact, these might be a little long for her. But that's okay, because kids grow fast, and I would rather her be able to use them longer than for them to be a standard negative ease and her not be able to wear them very long. Now, I knit this up so quickly because she sent me a message. I had given her some hand-me-down socks from my kiddos. They didn't fit anymore, and I thought, you know, at least one of my sister's kids would be able to fit in them, and apparently she really liked them. And then they got dried too long in the dryer and they shrunk, so now they're going to her brother, and she was very sad about it. So I told her, well, honey, I can knit you some socks. That is fine. So I have my other cuff here. I've barely started with the 65 stitch situation. That's where my decrease is every 10 stitches. And I asked her what kind of socks she wanted, and she said, I would like the Van Gogh yarn. This is an opal yarn. This is my first time using opal yarn. I've heard tons about it. It's a very popular yarn, and I can see why, because a lot of people are able to get 2 pairs of socks out of an opal yarn. It's 100 grams, and it's 4-ply, which is similar to a fingering weight yarn. I know some people say that it's a little bit thinner than that. It's 75% superwash wool and 25% polyamide. So the yarn is based off of the colors from his Starry Night painting. I love that painting. I love that painting. And so we might have matching socks, she and I. This is the colors in there. And it's a self-patterning yarn, which is why I didn't do it 2 at a time. I'm really, really liking this, though. It's very sturdy. It's comparable to the Patton's Croy. The Patton's Croy yarn, I would say, is more of a sport weight, and this is a true 4-ply fingering weight yarn. But it has the sturdiness and like the wooliness that the Patton's Croy does. So yeah, I can only get 1 pair of socks out of 100 grams of the Patton's Croy yarn because it's a sport weight. But with this one, well, that's hard to say actually, because I have leftovers if I don't use contrast heels and toes on a Pattern Squirrel yarn. I can only get one pair of socks from 100 grams. And this one I'm doing contrast heels and toes as well. So we shall see. We'll see what I'm able to get out of it. And also this is a kid's pair of socks, so it's a little bit different. But yeah, I've been enjoying it immensely. It's really nice, and you can tell it's not scratchy or uncomfortable, but you can tell it's going to wear really well. And so I'm definitely on the Opal fan train. Good first experience for sure. And I got this at my old LYS in Kentucky. It's called the Wooden Needle, and it was $17.99. So it's $10 more than the commercial. I guess Opal would be a commercial yarn, but it's $10 more a ball than the Patton's Croy. But of course, with the Patton's Croy, you only get 50 grams a ball. So it would be comparable. It's only a few dollars. It's only a couple dollars more to get 100 grams of this than it is to get the Patton's Croy. So whatever your gauge needs, either of those should really help you with some sock decisions. This is my Alpenglow yoke. I think it's wonderful. I still have a ways to go. I thought I would be done. I blocked it to make sure I wasn't going too far, and it turns out I'm not. I have probably 3-4 inches left before the yoke is deep enough for me to split for sleeves. Now I am knitting at a different gauge than the pattern. I'm between, my stitch count is between a size 6 and a size 7. So there are a lot of stitches on this needle. This blue is from Lizco Knits. I got it in a D-stash from her. It's a non-superwash Highland wool in fingering weight. It's a 2-ply, and it's a woolen spun, and it's just so airy and nice. I like it so much. It's really squishy. And then this is from Magpie Fibers. It's their plume base, which is 75% cashmere, 25% silk in the Evil Beaver colorway. I think that phrase is it just sounds funny to me, Evil Beaver. And then this green is Holst Super Soft in the colorway Tundra, which is 100% non-superwash wool here. And then we have this fun color changing yarn. It's not Spin Cycle. It's from the Queensland collection. Sorry, my daughter chopped this one up, so I'm just going to read it to you. From the Rainbow Beach collection. It's pure Australian superwash wool in the color 104. So these colors change. It's like a marled kind of situation, a marled yarn. So part of it changes and then another part. And so part of it down here is more green, which is harder to see, but I'm okay with it. I'm not really doing any color management or anything. I like the way it's showing up. Like I said, I have longer to go, and that means that I got a little discouraged and I haven't really worked on it very much in March. I got it to the point where I thought it would be the end of the yoke and blocked it, and then it wasn't the end of the yoke, so I was just like, well, that's it. I entertained frogging it for a while. I'm still not sold on frogging it. But I'm also not sold on finishing it right now. I'm in love with some other things, and so I've thought about just putting this one in hibernation and looking at it again in the fall and seeing what I think about it. So that's what I will probably do, is just let it stare at me for a while and look at it again then. I added I added a stripe onto my anthology throw. I've had this for a while. It's Knitting Nakabi's fingering weight merino, a non-superwash merino. She does all non-superwash yarns that are naturally dyed, and this was a one-of-a-kind colorway. I love the little faded bits there, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to put it in there because I was being pretty selective about my color palette for this, but you can see it kind of picks up these red bits in there, and I like that, so I decided to add that on there. This is a totally year-long project for me. I don't need to get it done right now. I am loving the colors that are in it, and I don't do fingering weight non-superwash projects very often, so it'll just be added to when it gets added to. That'll be fine. The next whip that I have on the needles is this beautiful cowl. It's a cowl that's infinity scarf style, so you do this provisional cast on and then you knit all these charts and then you join it together with a Kitchener. Now, I love color work that just all the ends and the floats and everything, just no one ever sees them, not even me. I love it. I love that it's just in there. Aren't these moths just gorgeous? Oh, I'm so excited about it. Here's I was going to say prediction. That's not right. Here's my conclusion. These mushrooms down here, they look weird to me. So I'm going to cut that part out. I don't like that part very much. I might do it again. I might redo it a different way. But what's going on here is you do the color work chart, right? And you do it with the colors of your choice. But then you go back and you do duplicate stitches over those other colors. And it's just a lot thicker than I thought it would be. And it's not, my duplicate stitch doesn't lay very prettily over those stitches. So it might be a user error thing, but I don't understand doing duplicate stitch over something that's not just the background color. So there's also instructions to do duplicate stitch over the moths, so they can be all different colors, which is cool, but you'd be doing duplicate stitch over the black, which to me makes sense, because if some of your background is showing, that's fine. But this is, it's just not, I don't like the way that it's laying, and so I'm probably going to cut it out and like have this row be next to this row. So you can see there's some branches here on this, and then there's little toadstools, and these are different fungi, and then there's some branches with some little acorns and some moths, and there's leafy things here, and then some more acorns, and then I'm at the very bottom of some trees. I am almost halfway through the cowl, and I like the color work a lot. It's been really fun. Going back and doing the duplicate stitch over this has been like, meh, I didn't like that. So I'm gonna try it over the moths, see what I think of it, and then continue on if I like that. I think the moths look fine though, the way they are. I think they look nice. So what I was planning on doing was doing the embroidery or duplicate stitch or whatever is called for each section before I finished it. Before I finished the cowl, just doing each, once you get to a point where it lays flat, because of course it's all in stockinette, so it all rolls on top of itself, which is a little bit motivating actually, because you get to see the thing that you knit last clearly once you finish the next thing. So it's nice to be able to do that.
Apparently, even my camera was getting bored with hearing me try to decide what to do about that cowl, so it just timed out on me. So we'll move on to some other things. I cast on these are just cuffs for the caramel sauce socks. I've been wanting to cast these on for over a year, and doing the low buy year has been fantastic because it's given me the time I want to cast on things that I have yarn for, that I have plans for. I am notorious for getting excited about the new yarn and casting on a new thing, even though there are some things that I've had planned for a while that I still really want. So they're just cuffs. There's a chart for the lace pattern, and in the last few weeks I haven't had much bandwidth for a chart, so I haven't done much work on these, obviously, and I honestly did a lot of work on that cowl earlier in the month because I haven't been looking at that chart either. I have 3 more whips to go. I have more socks. Can you believe it? More socks. I'm obsessed, guys. I'm obsessed with the little socks. I want all the socks right now. Having more socks is just, I've ruined myself for bot socks. Ruined. And I only have a few pairs of my own socks. I made 14 pairs of socks last year, and I made 3 pairs for myself, and that meant I had 4 pairs by the end of the year. But one of those pairs has been gifted to my son because now we have the same size foot, and he likes the shorter leg socks and I like the longer leg socks, and those had a shorter leg, and so we were out of socks. I let him borrow them, and then they just became his. So I have 1 less pair of socks. So I need more socks in my life, which is great because I'm making more. These are just a broken rib sock. So if you want to do a broken rib, you just do a round of knitting and then a round of knit 1, purl 1, a round of knitting and a round of knit 1, purl 1. So you can see the knits line up here. And I've got my cuffs are from a mini that was gifted to me in a yarn exchange that I was doing with my Discord group. If you're interested in joining, you can message me on Instagram and I can ask if I can invite you in. It'd be really fun. I really love these socks. I'm very into a patterned sock right now. So I've got these broken rib socks. I've got the other 4x1 rib socks. I've got my caramel socks at the ready. I'm into the textured sock right now. I had a very long vanilla sock moment for a while, and I wanted to do a broken rib sock in a tonal yarn. I've wanted to do it for a long time. I just haven't cast it on. This is the same collection from the Encanto collection. This is the We Don't Talk About Bruno color from that. I really, really like this. I actually like this more than the Surface Pressure one, which I did not expect. But it has all these different shades of green and then this brown that's in there. And because of the texture of the sock, it comes out just really prettily. It breaks it up a little bit so that it doesn't look as pooly. And I just really love it. Every time it gleams in the sun, I'm just like, oh, it's so pretty. I am wondering, since this is leftover, I already made a pair of socks from this yarn for my sister. They were the magical toadstool socks. They were so cute. And this yarn did really well for that. But I'm wondering how much I'll have, if I'll be able to get through the rest of the sock with just this. I have more of this mini, so if I don't get through the rest of it and I need toes or something for it, I can do that. But I think it'd be really sweet if I did have enough for the whole sock, because I really would like to use as much of this as I can and just use it all up. stitch markers I got from the We Grow Wild Ko-Fi. She has a great podcast, and she made these little spoon stitch markers. If you're someone who deals with chronic illness or chronic pain, you probably know about like the whole spoon thing of dividing your energy, and that just really resonates with me. So I really like these little spoon stitch markers. It reminds me to take care of myself. This is the champagne cardigan, and oh my gosh, look, it actually looks a little bit like the start of a sweater. What? I will say this is flat knitting, and so it's taking me a little bit longer to get to where I want to be here. I'm almost done with the sleeve increases, and then I will have just the body increases to do before. I'm assuming the next thing is splitting for sleeves and going on with that, which is pretty standard for a top-down raglan cardigan. She has these three stitch raglan stitches, and up here I was having trouble having it look like 3 stitches. Down here it does, but up here it was looking more like 2 just because of the way I was doing my increases. So I started doing the increase one more over. Does that make sense? Like, even though my stitch marker is here, I would knit that one and then do the increase I was supposed to do so that it looks like the 3 stitches in the pattern that it's supposed to. If you haven't done a raglan before, what it is it just goes from the neckline and has this diagonal line to your armpit for the shaping of the top of your torso. I am very interested in knitting cardigans right now. I am very interested in making my jumpers into cardigans right now. I just wear cardigans way, way more. So this is going to be really nice, I think. It has some really clean lines. I love this yarn. I bought this because I loved the color. Look at that. It's called Blue Spruce, and it's shepherd's wool. And I got 400 grams, which is not going to be enough for this sweater. So I might do some striping with some other shepherd's wool I have. I have this like golden yellow that I could put with it. I'm still thinking. I'm honestly just going to keep doing it until I split for the sleeves and then make a different decision after that. There is a button band that you put on afterwards, and it's a double knit button band, which I have never done before. I was reading the instructions and was just like, I don't understand. So I'm just taking it step by step. I got overwhelmed for a second and then decided, you know what? I don't need to know how to do that button band today. I don't need to know today. I just need to know how to do what I'm doing today, right? And I will learn how to do a double knit button band when I'm done with the rest of this sweater. So this, I have 400 grams total of this. I am knitting the size large, and I haven't really made any adjustments. I've met gauge for that. I didn't knit a swatch, but I measured this one because this one is the same gauge. The pocket sweater was the same stitches per 4 inches as the champagne cardigan, and so I just decided that I would treat that as my swatch and do this on the same size needles as I did before. So of course there's a little bit of a difference between knitting in the round and knitting flat, but I don't find that it's rowing out very much. It doesn't look like it's rowing out, I don't think. So I'm not concerned about that. I know that maybe my gauge could have changed a little bit, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay with moving on after knowing that I at some point hit gauge for that with this size needle. So So I will keep you appraised of what I do with the colors here. I think it would be really fun to do the yellow at some point after the sleeve split. But because the button band is the last thing, I'm thinking I should probably leave 50 grams for that. Maybe? I think I should leave like a 50-gram buffer for myself for the button band. And if I don't need that much, I'll probably just add some more ribbing on the sleeves or something so I can fold them over to use the rest of the green yarn. It'll probably be what I will do. It's so pretty. I'm very excited about this. I think I'm going to wear this a lot. With how much I've already been wearing the red one, I feel like this more classic lines one is going to be there. I'm just going to use them all the time. Last whip. Okay, so for this one, I'm using, let me go grab it. For this one, I'm using Cascade Eco Wool, and it is 478 yards per 250 grams. So it's a big chunky boy right here. It's 100% Peruvian Highland wool. It's got like this little halo on it. Do you see it? See the halo? The fuzzies? It's very nice. Very woolly. Very woolly. And I'm using it to make the mandolin cardigan by Savory Knitting, which is Amy. Do you say Christopher's or Christophers? I've heard it both ways. But this is the first half of the lace chart. It is a bottom-up cardigan, which I've never done before. I know for some of you who've been knitting for a while, you might be like, how never? I was talking to my friend Mandy, who has the Mouses Makes Knitting podcast. Check her out. If you don't check her out, you should, because she's so sweet and funny, and she just has she's just got this dry sense of humor that cracks me up. And she's a really good knitter and totally gives some really great information. So, I was telling her I was planning on casting it on while we were on a Zoom knitting call. And I said, I was planning on casting this on, but it calls for a tubular cast on, and it's bottom up, and you seam the sleeves on, and I've never done a bottom up seamed business. I've never done an all over lace garment either. And I said, so not today, Zerg, not today. And she said, that is so funny, because not until the last few years have I done top-down sweaters. It used to just always be bottom-up sweaters that you were seaming sleeves and stuff. And I thought that is really interesting to me, because I'm sure that a top-down sweater is similar to like a toe-up sock, right? Everybody talks about how, yeah, it's better because you can try it on as you go. But a toe-up sock, I can do it. I've done it a couple of times. But it doesn't make sense to my brain. Like, I trust the math and I do it. But a top-down sweater, I know how to make adjustments. I know how to modify the crap out of a top-down sweater. But yeah, but I love cuff-down socks, which would be the equivalent of a bottom-up sweater. And with cuff-down socks, you have to trust the math. And you can try that on as you go as well. You can definitely try it on as you go. You just basically have to know, like, oh, that's not long enough for my heel flap. I can tell because it's not easily fitting to the bottom of my heel. I'll go another 2 rows or whatever. And so I'm trusting that this will turn out just fine. I did not do a tubular cast on. I've done tubular cast ons before. They're fine. They're great. But for the bottom of a sweater, I don't really, number one, I don't see the edge of the bottom of that sweater very often. So I'm not super concerned about that. I do it on my sleeves pretty often. I do like that. That's pretty satisfying, but I wasn't concerned about it. So I did a stretchier long tail business down here so that I can stretch it out if I need to block it for the lace to show up well. This pattern is, it has a recommended 10 inches of positive ease, which is like, whoo, Nelly, that's a lot of positive ease. But I'm going with it because that's just fine. And I think to try to modify something that I've never done before might not turn out super well. Maybe. Yeah. And also because it has so much positive ease, I think it will be easier to make sure that like my arms fit in the armholes correctly and everything like that. It's a it looks like a drop shoulder construction, but because you do the body bottom up and the sleeves are also laced, you do the sleeves bottom up as well and then connect them in a drop shoulder fashion. So I'm not very far, but it didn't take me very long to do because this is, for me to meet gauge, I believe the suggested needle size is a 5.5, and I'm knitting this on a 6 because I have another sweater that I knit that I knit them on 6s and met gauge. I think it's 15 stitches per 4 inches for that, and that's about as loose as I like to go. I think because it's a lace Aran weight, this is a worsted weight, close enough, but it's meant for an Aran weight lace jumper, Aran weight lace cardigan. It knits up really fast and I am obsessed with it right now. So I'm back into having the brain space to reading charts, obviously, but I just want to do this one. I just want to do this one right now. I don't have very much of the first 100 grams left. I have 3 of these, and that means that's 750 grams. So that's enough yardage to make the cardigan. It's actually a little bit more than I would need to do that. And that's great because I might add half a repeat of the lace on the body. I've been thinking about that. As I just said, I'm not going to modify anything. Length is like the easiest modification in the world though. So if it's a little bit longer, I don't care. That's the thing about bottom up cardigans or sweaters. I just don't want that. I don't understand how to modify the yoke depth at all. And I feel like that's just something you have to do to pattern, unless of course you have a ton of experience with that. So where am I measuring from? Like, I'm not measuring from my armpit, right? I should be measuring from where that yoke depth is going to be, but is it going to be here? Or is it going to be here? Or is it going to be here? You know, I don't know. There's probably more information in the pattern. I need to get better at reading patterns, especially for things I'm unfamiliar with. Okay, and quickly we're going to do acquisitions because I have a bunch of acquisitions. I'm not going to show them all to you because some of them are gifts from a friend and they're just I just have bags of yarn that have been given to me. My friends have known that I'm doing a low by year, and it was funny because I thought, okay, I'm just gonna, whatever I am able to knit this year is what I knit this year, and I'll just approach it at the end of the year and see what I need, see what I don't need. I have a couple of exceptions for myself. One is if I'm able to procure any Newton yarn. I have never been able to do that before until this time. Little foreshadowing for you there. And if I go to any yarn festivals or like events at a yarn shop or something, because there aren't any yarn stores that are, shall we say, great near me. I just don't. I had this beautiful yarn store in Kentucky, and I totally took it for granted while I was there. I thought all of them were like that. They're not. They're not all like that. And but it's made me really grateful for the time and money that I spent there, and now I can use the yarn that I bought there, and other things that I bought online and supported friends and stuff that they make beautiful yarn, and so of course I would want to use it and knit things up with it. So, but since it's been a low buy year, I've received all of this beautiful yarn from friends just because they're destashing, and a stash is a really personal, like, I want to say, limitation that you put on yourself. Most of it is just about your bandwidth and your budget. Like, that's it. It's not about, a morality stance or anything like that. If you're able to support people who make yarn, then by golly, do it. It's a great idea. But if your stash of yarn is bringing you more anxiety, or what do I want to say? Or sadness because you're not able to knit up the things that you want to knit because you just feel like you have too much yarn for your brain to handle, then that's something you can just determine yourself. And everybody has a different point at which they think, okay, I think I need to slow down. And I know some people who don't think that at all. They have no bandwidth issues with that at all. I'm someone who keeps inventory in my head of just about everything that I own. It's exhausting, and I've realized that sometimes it's completely unnecessary. It's something that comes with my special cocktail of anxiety and obsessive compulsive tendencies, and so I manage that how I decide to with my crafting and my yarn and all of that. And to be able to freely just look at what I have and use from that at this point has been really freeing. So I'm going to show you the Untitled yarn. I'm not going to show you the gifts from my friends because I plan on using those, and I'm probably going to use them very soon. So this is the first colorway that I got. I love the nuance in the colors with Untitled. It's beautiful, and I'll put the colorway names on the screen because I don't think I will say them correctly. And I can't remember right now by heart which one is which. But I just love the difference in the color. There's like gray and white and cream and yellow and even orange in that one. And then there's this darker gray. And this one's even got like a little bit of brown in it. It's really beautiful. And then the last one is this one. And what's funny to me is this one looks like the first one until you put them next to each other. And I feel like I'm the neutrals version of Aro from Aro Knits and Pearls. She's like, this pink is beautiful. This pink is like a cool pink. This is a warm pink. And I'm like that with gracious. Like, these are two totally different colors to me. Like, look, they're different. But how cool would they be? Like, you could hold these together, this double, you could hold this double, or you could hold them double together and get something totally different. Wouldn't that be so cool? It'd be so cool. They're beautiful. And I got I got 500 grams of 2 of them and 300 grams of the other one. I can't remember right now which one I got of which, but they sent this little bonus. I think this is like 50 grams. This bonus green. Look at how gorgeous that is. I don't know if that's coming out in their next collection but oh my word. That's gorgeous. I'm obsessed with this little green 50 gram. Guys, this is like what I feel like my heart looks like. There's this beautiful green thing that keeps things warm. I feel like that's my heart right there. I know, dramatic, but it feels true right now. So, friends, that is the end of that. I am so excited because I've been casting on all the socks, which means that I only have only three skeins left of the sock yarn that was in my stash from 2022. Oh, that's so cool to me. So cool to me. Thank you so much for joining me today. That's it for this podcast. If you made it to the end, leave me a little emoji in the comment. I love knowing who's made it to the end, and let me know what you've been working on. I love that this is a place where we can have conversations and cheer each other on. So have a great day and happy knitting.